I went ahead and I ran the processor without AJ.
It's still in one piece. He didn't break it.
Talk to AJ about the details of the machine and also let him show us how someone that has more experience can run this thing. And
no pressure.
No pressure at all, right? So what I'd like to do is walk around and ask a couple questions.
Absolutely.
So I'll give you the microphone.
Okay.
Well, I guess I should have brought 2 microphones, but...
Yeah, mine's in the... Now, I got my daughter's car. She's at college, so don't tell her that I have her car here.
Hopefully she doesn't watch Woodruff Woods.
She's got all kinds of things on her Facebook and stuff now, so...
Yeah, well, we were both on that adventure this week of taking the girls to school, and
you had the shorter track, though.
Indeed, I did, and it was still a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah, she's down in Pensacola, Florida, so we got to walk the white sandy beaches at 105 degrees, so feel bad for me, really, feel bad.
So talking about the machine, just starting out, like how big is that hydraulic tank? How many gallons?
There's got to be... I know the one on like the 2024 was like 25 or 30. This has got to be a solid 50 on this one. I know it's big enough that it gives the oil a chance to rest before it gets sucked back up and then blown through the system again. That's all part of like the cooling and the efficiency on these processors, that it's not an undersized oil tank where it's just the oil constantly just flows through it. So
with regard to the live deck, is there any maintenance to these?
On this end of the live deck, no. It's always a sealed bearing that it's connected through the bolt here. This end is sealed. On the other end, if you walk up here to the front, you'll see it's either like a blue or like a steel green yeah. So these are an 1.5-inch bearing, so you always have like a grease fitting, and usually there's one per leg the whole way up. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are all greasable. The end cones here are greasable. The fittings on this side here and on the same side down here. We keep them on the bottom. They're a little trickier to get at, but then when the wood comes in, it's not smashing the grease fitting and breaking off that little grease zert.
Right.
So we try to keep them, quasi-protected. But yeah, there's... anytime where the roller chain comes around, whether it's back, like on the other end, there's a gear motor that drives, you're going to have another big pillow bearing. There's not a lot of grease fittings on this, but there's probably 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. There might be like 24 to 30 grease fittings on the whole machine.
So, another thing, I did put some fuel in your machine. So I did notice, like, it had a little bit in it. I dumped 5 gallons in there.
Yeah.
And just to show, it's a little over halfway, but of course we're downhill
a little bit, yeah.
So I'm sure it was more full than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah, this would be like your 25-gallon tanks.
25.
That's why I'm thinking that's probably, in that 40 to 50. If you jump on the website, it's the shaverequipment.com. Go to the equipment tab, the processor tab, or brute force, then processor. We do have all the descriptions listed out for the machines there. Just as long as they haven't changed anything. I know this has been pretty good, so all those kind of stats would be right online. We can put a little caption down below, on the video for that.
And this is a 49 horsepower?
49.5 horsepower, well underneath the the need and the range for having your DEF and things. The only thing this one's got, there's a little EGR valve in here, which I can't say could be deleted, but we'll let that to your imagination. Everything is really at your fingertips. The yellow down here is the dipstick, so you can pull that right out, and then directly here on the other side is your fuel filter. It's got the little primer ball on top, so if you do run out of fuel or just need to do regular maintenance, it does pump up pretty easy. I know the first one that I got in, what was that, 2020, 21, somewhere in there. We were bringing it off the trailer and the nose dipped down, it ran out of fuel. I'm like, great, I have to prime a brand new machine. So I called out and they're like, oh yeah, there's the little plunger ball. I'm like, those never work. Dude, I'm telling you, like 4 or 5 good pushes, motor's right back up and running again. It was amazing. But yeah, no particulate filters, no DEF, You know, none of that nonsense. And this is a Kohler diesel, which is like the old Lamborghini diesels. And the reason that we use this style of motor, it's the highest torque to horsepower ratio. So to get the amount of torque that we have out of a 49 horse, it might be like a 50 to a 60 horse Kubota to get the same kind of torque out of it, because we do a double stack on the pump. So there's actually 4 pressure lines coming out of this. So you get 1, 2, 3, and 4, 2 big returns. And then this pump on this machine is upgraded. This is a 2-stage. So that's why you're getting all of the speed out of that cylinder on the quick cycle time down and back. But then when it needs to grunt, we'll say the pump downshifts to build that extra pressure. And then that's when stuff goes through sideways.
And this, I assume, is the oil cooler.
Yep, oil cooler kicks on around 125 degrees, 120. And if you're ever curious if this works, you can always jump it across here to make it run, just to make sure power's coming through, there's no blown fuses. Temperature-wise, on that oil tank, inside that little sight gauge, you will actually see a thermometer. So if you were wondering where the oil temperature really was, if this needed to kick on or not, you have that as an option, just to walk around and look at an analog, you know, type of temperature gauge. Then there's some more bearings in here. This is actually what runs the log in-feed that brings the wood into the saw. So there's 2 there. So like, just as you walk around, just anything that really rotates and moves, it's either going to be sealed, requiring no maintenance, or it will be an actual pillow bearing like that. And then there's a couple swivel points on the conveyor, because anything from the 18 series, whether it's gas or diesel and up, everything gets that heavy duty pivot conveyor. So there's some points there, then the roller bearings on the bottom and top. And really that's about it as far as the grease fittings go on this one. The only other piece would be that's new on this one, or not new, but an upgrade. This one is an auxiliary hydraulic, which kind of goes back here behind that 4-way.
I'll show them that. I did notice that.
So why we did the loop on this, sometimes pieces fall out of the chute and it can hit the lever, you know, to go backwards or forwards. Yep. So if you don't have a way to loop it in there, you pressurize the system and you'll feel it in the saw or in the splitter. So just for the couple bucks that it costs, we just do the loop, and then it's just easier and I don't have to worry about it. Plus, It keeps the connections clean. There's no mud or sawdust in it. But yeah, this would have enough hydraulic power to run a disc cleaner like I have over at the house, or even that stacking conveyor that I've got at the house, in tandem. So again, you're going more wedges, more waste, you know, clean it and then process it into a pile, or stack it into a pile with bags or a dump truck, whatever you want to do.
One last question I have about it is the bar and chain oil.
Yep.
So the bar and chain oil I use looks much darker than that color. Is this a special?
No.
No?
Anything that has the tackifier in it is what you want to use. It just got to be sticky. It doesn't have to be a winter blend. It doesn't have to be a summer blend. I'm a platinum dealer for Stens, so I buy it by the case, and it gets our price down. I think it's like $12.75, $13, whatever it is. I actually missed a phone call from them today, so maybe they have a reduction on price. I doubt it. But
I doubt it in this market.
but we can see. Yeah, I bought 3 pallets about this time last year. I'm down to about 1.5 pallets now. But yeah, as long as it has that sticky in there, please, for the love of all, do not use like waste oil. It's just, you're going to burn up the bar. If you want to do like on a smaller saw or something, that's fine. But it just, there's nothing that keeps it in the bar, and it just goes everywhere.
So like if I pick Husky oil or Steel oil, that's all.
I would prefer Steel over the Husky oil.
Yeah,
but,
I know. Well, not everybody's perfect.
No, just again, cheap. I mean, Tractor Supply, Rural King, if you have those guys around, a Home Depot brand, just as long as it's got that tackifier in, that's sticky, just to keep it in that bar. There's so much torque and power. You've got to have it in there. And then with all of the brute force processors, there's that little blue dial on the dash, which when we go around the other side, I'll show you. But you can control the flow of oil right from the console. You don't have to come over here with a wrench or do a valve, or it's not a gravity, it's an actual pump, because that's the piston pump here with a check valve. And then you control the oil flow on the other side. So I'll do like a turn and a half, like for the average size stuff that you have on the deck. It's just when you hit that saw, you want to see just a nice mist kind of coming off of the bar. If it's dripping and, you know, guzzling out of the saw guard area, way too much. We're wasting money at that point. So it's a fine line between making a mess and burning the bar. And so
today we have the 6-way wedge on, and you know, we're making some reasonable sized pieces. You know, some of these I've been running through. Of course, I don't have it down all the way either. So
and if I was thinking and had a truck that was freed up, I could have brought the 10-way over, but you know, I just needed another cup of coffee today, I guess.
Well,
so
this I found to be interesting too, that you can store an extra wedge right here on the machine.
Yeah, it's again, the brute force processors are highly mobile. So I mean, you saw the video the other day where we set this whole thing up in like, what, a minute 30?
I think it was 33 seconds.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Once we got done messing around. So.
Yeah, so, yeah, and the messing around was just kind of finessing the legs, so that didn't really have anything to do with the overall opening up process. But, so, like, if you're going to go mobile, you know, put your normal wedge in here. Like if you're going to do boiler wood that day, the 4-way is fine. If you're doing like retail stuff, you can go with the 6-way or the 8-way. My preference is either the 10 or the 12-way.
Yeah.
And that's the only wedge that really lives in my machine because it's all retail stuff, no boiler. But you can take stuff with you. You don't have to have, you know, bring the pickup truck over, you know, drop the tailgate, load the wedges. Oh, I forgot a wedge. Well, you have 2 right with the machine. So it just comes down to, it's mobile.
Well, I would say let's fire this thing up and let's see what a pro can do with it.
Yeah. Now you jinxed me for the day, right?
I did.
Done this trick yet. So normally I would just run this through without really trying to pop it. So it's maybe what, 4-inch, 5-inch diameter. So watch this one.
So one thing I notice about this is it's pretty crooked too.
Yeah. One cut, 2 cuts, 3. Cycle that 1 time per round. running this, I could tell there wasn't a whole lot of bar oil coming off of it, so I said, Darren, this would be the perfect time just to do a quick auto tensioner video on this. Once you hit the 1824 diesel limit, or not limit, but platform, then you get the auto tensioner. And why the auto tensioner is really cool: one, you get 4 more inches of cutting diameter. 2, it's completely toolless, no wrenches or sockets or anything to change the chain or work on the bar, which I'll show you. And it keeps the perfect amount of tension on the bar at all times. It's kind of like a little mini brake caliper in there, is the easiest way to describe how this works. And the other piece that I found kind of neat is it really saves on the amount of bar oil that you need, because if you over tension it, then the bar gets hot. You got to put more lubricant to it. But from what we've seen with using this over the course of 300 hours on my previous units, it was like a fraction of the bar oil that we put through this thing. So easiest way, this is the little jig. So I guess I was wrong by saying completely toolless. You do need this to work on the chain. But once you take off the sawdust chute, it gets you into what you have going on here. So we'll take out the retainer pin. So all you have to do is take the pin out of the top. Then everything just kind of lifts straight up and off. I get a little lazy if I'm doing this just at the wood yard. I'll keep that out of the bottom groove. It just makes life a little bit simpler. And then basically it's just taking this guy. Chain goes around the bottom stud. The lever part comes up here. Squeeze the two together. You have a little detent button here. That pushes in, let go. That keeps all of the tension off of the chain itself. Pull it from the bar. Come on. And the chain is in your hand.
That's slick. That's very slick.
So then in this scenario with the bar, never start the machine with the bar out. There is a little jig that you can put in there, and it's in these 2 holes. There's a little port that goes like that and like this, and I had a piece of bark kind of get stuck in the sawdust chute, so it was recycling the sawdust back through. Well, that drive sprocket is like back here, so if this gets sawdust in it, it actually gets underneath the chain. It'll bind this up. All right, so we didn't have a pick or a pipe cleaner of adequate size, so I have this itty bitty little twig, and when we clean out with a pick, you'll feel a little valley, and then right at that hole, see where the stick is? That's where the oil comes out, and it just had enough sawdust in there that it wouldn't do it. And yes, I know the circle saw guys are going, well, you know, if that was a buzz wheel, well, then we're talking 200 grand versus just 100,000. So if I can take a stick off the old apple tree here and kind of pick that out, I'm plenty good. Yeah. So come on, get in there. It's a snug one. There we go. But at least I didn't have to spend a day grinding out aluminum rivets and putting teeth on, so that's a win. Oh, we could go back and forth all day, bar saw versus circle saw, and I don't know. I mean, you saw how fast this thing cuts, so there's really the adage of a bar saw machine is slow. I really don't think you're gonna find a faster cutting bar saw than what Brute Force puts together. And I know Josh and I go back and forth on the Facebook sites and just talking about the bar saw machines, and I don't really think they get the full credit that they deserve. But so then what we're going to watch for is that little button is going to pop, and it goes right back to tension. Make sure it's inside the bar all the way. There it goes. And then if I had gloves on, I'd give it a harder pull to go around, but I don't feel like messing up my fingers today. And then there's, on all of the extended frame units from Brute Force, they have a little toolbox on them. So the extended frame is standard on the 1824 diesel. So this just stores up in there with a spare bar, a handful of chains, you know, an adjustable wrench, whatever else. But yeah, That's the auto tensioner and the little oil ports on an 1824 diesel.